Poise is a myth. Miracle builds are a joke. We're all pawns controlled by something greater. Weapons, the DNA of the soul. They shape our builds. They are the culture. They're everything we pass on. Expose someone to straight swords long enough, and they'll learn to spam. They become a casual. Curved swords, spears, and scythes. All weapons. All passed along. How about crossbows? Are they weapons? You can't fight lag, Jack. Welcome, champions, for another fun and exciting video. Our topic for today will be the most broken and OP weapons in Souls games. Now, I know what you want to say. Actually, all weapons are strong and you can turn anything into a viable weapon, you idiot. And to that I say, my friend, you are right. But in each game there's always this one weapon or two weapons that have that oomph to them, that ow! You know, that, I don't know how to explain it, but you know what I mean. They are strong, yada yada yada. The main criteria for this list, you can call it, is that the weapon must be a missile or a torpedo in the hands of a casual and an absolute nuke in the hands of an expert. So, without further ado, let's begin the video. Let's start with Demon's Souls. It seems that when they were developing the game, they had no idea or expectations that this franchise was going to become the juggernaut that it is nowadays. Just like how I don't expect this channel to blow up, which means it's going to blow up someday, so subscribe now. I say that because this game has a few balance issues and a few broken weapons, like the scraping spear, which can break other people's equipment, and the storm ruler, which doesn't really do damage, but it can send foes flying. But we're not here to talk about troll weapons, we're here to talk about strong weapons. So let's do that. Let's start with the blue blood sword. It's a straight sword, which is not the word that I'd associate with one-shots, but in the remake this thing can one-shot bosses, even the endgame ones, because there was a glitch that allowed you to have infinite luck, which is this weapon's main scaling attribute. It can scale with dex and strength, but the scaling for these caps at 40. But for luck, it can go all the way up to 99. Luckily the glitch has been fixed, so you can't one-shot bosses now. But the weapon is still very powerful, because of the scaling and because it can be buffed, which will amplify its magic damage, and being buffable is really weird for a weapon that has built-in magic and the boss weapon at the same time. Oh, I forgot, this weapon can only be created from the soul of Maiden Astraea, which means that not a lot of bosses will be forced to face it. Now we move to the first Dark Souls. Compared to its predecessor, this game has more armor and weapons. And of course, some weapons shine more than the others. And in my opinion, the Black Knight weapons just reign supreme. For multiple reasons. They are really powerful, can be upgraded quite easily, and if you are lucky enough you can get them quite early on in the game. They also deal extra damage against Chaos Demons, a very common enemy type in the game. The Black Knight weapons are just so powerful, and it's always my priority to get one as early as possible. And I advise people who are new to the game to get one, because they are essentially the easy mode weapons. But amongst this powerful set of weapons, one of them dominates and is the king of them all, and that is the Black Knight Halberd. This weapon may not have the best scaling, but it can outdamage the Great Sword and the Great Axe, and it also has a much faster moveset, especially the running attack. You've probably seen PewDiePie use this weapon in his video, or have seen some speedrunners absolutely destroy the game with this weapon. Ironically enough though, later on in Dark Souls 3, the halberd is now probably the least popular among the Black Knight weapons. Because sadly it doesn't really have that much going for it compared to the other ones. For example, the sword has perseverance as a weapon art, the axe does a shit ton of damage, and the greatsword is very powerful and used to have a very strong PvP combo. And it can be obtained relatively early in the game. But the halberd doesn't have the insane damage, doesn't have the great weapon art, and is obtained way later into the game. But I digress. In Dark Souls 1, the halberd is an extremely rare drop from the Black Knights who wield it. One of them can be met down in Darkroot Basin, and the other one can be met in the Tombs of the Giants. Unfortunately though, these two do not respawn, and the weapon has only 20% chance to drop, so you better use that humanity you've been saving to get an extra chance and an extra boost to your item discovery. A third respawning one can be found in the kiln of the first flame, but that's basically the end of the game. But let's say you want a very powerful weapon that can be obtained early on and can easily beat the game for you, and you don't really want to deal with any sort of drop rates. Well, my friend, I've got just the weapon for you, and that is the base cannon, aka the Zweihander. This thing is associated with the legend himself and the strongest Dark Souls character, Giant Dad. Jokes aside, this weapon has been in every Souls game and it has always been pretty good. But in this game, it's downright broken. It does a lot of damage, can be obtained literally after you finish the tutorial, and doesn't require a big stat investment. And it has extremely high stagger potential, with its heavy and running attacks. Just look at this! It's an unupgraded weapon, and this character is a new game plus 6 or 5, and I still managed to stagger this Taurus demon with a single hit. Meanwhile, the other weapons can barely do it. This thing can be obtained from the graveyard in Fire Ring. So yeah, the Zweihander isn't just a meme, it's actually very powerful. Also, it seems that whoever wrote the Fixter Life page really dislikes the Zweihander. LOL. The best dexterity alternative would be the Great Scythe. But come on guys, we don't level up dex in here. Now we move to Dark Souls 2. The build and weapon variety in this game was insane. You can basically infuse and buff everything, even boss weapons. Hell, you can make a kitchen ladle usable. Essentially, the sky was the limit. Which makes it really odd and weird to me that one of the most popular and powerful weapons in the game is a weapon that is literally broken and has zero durability. The Santir Spear is without a doubt one of the weirdest and most unique weapons in the series. When you first obtain it, you'll notice that the weapon has no scaling, and it has 500 durability, and there's a big rock slab covering it. The moveset in this form is relatively normal and have nothing special to it. The weapon in this form is just awful. However, once you break the slab covering it, you unlock the true potential of this weapon. The weapon still has no scaling, but the moveset is now changed, and is completely different from any other weapon in this series. It has moves from multiple weapons, such as twin blades, halberds, curved swords, and much more. Basically, it has a little something for everyone. And another cool thing about this weapon is the fact that it has zero durability. So now you can't really break it even though it's broken, making it the ideal weapon for a no bonfire, no death run. And in a game where durability depletes very, very quickly, as it should, this is a big plus. Now, a fair warning, if you decide to try this weapon after watching the video, then search for builds and you find old videos on YouTube that says mundane is insane or something like that. Don't do it. Don't confuse it with mundane. Mundane has been nerfed significantly since the mythical age of 2014. The best route for this spear nowadays is the raw infusion. I believe it gets higher damage from raw than any other weapon. You can obtain this weapon at the doors of Pharaohs, and you can easily break it by hitting the bird's nest in things betwixt, or things between, or I don't know what to say, whatever. The second broken weapon in this game, and in my opinion the strongest one, is the Espada Ropera and the normal rapier. The Espada is just a straight upgrade to the normal one, so I'll focus on it instead. There's not a lot to say about it, to be honest. It's a really unremarkable weapon that can melt bosses quite easily, because for some reason thrusting swords are extremely strong in this game. They consume little to no stamina, have fast attack speeds, and have very high damage and counter damage. This extreme power made a lot of people consider thrusting swords to be boring. The only con I can think of for this weapon is the fact that it's obtained very late into the game. After you beat the Giant Lord, you should talk to Chancellor Williger, and he'll give it to you. You can tell how powerful this thing is by the fact that From gave it to a little ghost. An early game alternative for this one would be the rapier, which you can buy from the blacksmith. Also, this weapon gets bonus points for reminding me of that bat guy from Bleach. Now, when it comes to Bloodborne, things get a bit too complicated, because each weapon is truly unique in its own way. Come on, guys! We all know what the best weapon is. It's the Soul Cleaver. It's not even close. It's not even close. I don't even think that I should talk about it that much. It has the damage, the speed, the combo potential. It can build your beast meter in seconds. It deals extra damage to beasts. And you can get it literally as a starting weapon. What else could you ask for, you greedy bastard? Honestly, once you learn the R1 to L1 combo, you just can't go back to normal. You just can't go back. This combo is busted. The second overpowered weapon in Bloodborne is Ludwig's Holy Blade, a straight sword with moderate reach, damage and speed that can turn into a great sword that hits harder than a Volvo VNL 860. This thing can carry you through the game, tuck you to bed, cook your food, and pay your taxes. Honestly, the damage on this thing is nutty, and I really don't understand FromSoft's thought process when they gave it such good scaling on everything except Blood Tinge. And it's not like this weapon is a late game weapon. No, you can get this after 2 bosses. I know that FromSoft love their great swords, but damn, even the moveset is extremely versatile. You get horizontal slashes, vertical slashes, and thrust attacks. The charged R2 is a thrust that can hit for more than 1,000 damage. This weapon is supposed to be a replica of the Moonlight Sword, but it actually surpasses the original in every way. You really can't go wrong with this thing. I feel like I didn't give the Bloodborne segment of this video its fair share. So here are two more pieces of information. Info number 1. The highest damaging hit in this game is the Stake Driver's charge attack. I've seen people one-shot bosses on New Game Plus with it. Info number 2. It seems that at some point in the game's life cycle, the rifle spear was literally broken. There was a glitch that allowed hunters to deal a shit ton of damage with the gun attack by equipping flat arcane gems to it, which gave each pellet some arcane damage. And that was probably the only time people thought of using the shitty ass rifle spear. Now it's time for Dark Souls 3. And once again, one of the best and most OP weapons can be obtained at the start of the game. I'm of course talking about the Sellsword Twin Blades, a weapon that have no right being this good. Dark Souls 3 kinda had something for making curved swords extremely powerful, so it's not really that surprising that a dual curved sword is the strongest. This thing has the crazy speed, the crazy damage, a relatively low stamina consumption for a weapon that hits twice, and it also has a great combo potential. You can almost kill everyone in PvP with this thing. On its own, it's pretty good, but when you combine it with damage boosting rings, it becomes a shredding machine. Just look at this. I didn't even sequence break the game to get any early upgrade materials or rings. This is all done with stuff you find naturally, and I still melted the Pontiff, one of the hardest bosses. I believe that one of the reasons this weapon has a great damage is its great dex scaling. When infused with sharp gems, you always want to infuse it with sharp, even in a level 1 character. It performs better on sharp instead of raw. And I honestly can't really think of any downsides for this weapon, so let's jump ahead to the next one. The Lothric Knight Ultra Great Sword. I fell in love with this thing the moment that I had laid my eyes upon it. At that point I was using the Exile Curved Greatsword, which is also an insanely good weapon, but I was getting bored of it, so when I got this absolute beauty of an Ultra Greatsword, I decided to use it. The Lothric Knight Greatsword is a walking one-shot machine. On a hyper build, the charge attack can deal more than 1000 damage. Hell, even on a normal build, the charge and normal attacks can shred everything. And on a character with max out stats, a Dark or Chaos infused LGS will have the highest damage in the game. And speaking of infusions, I believe from the deepest depths of my heart that if there was a dung infusion path in the game, where you infuse your weapon with dung gems, this weapon would still excel. It's honestly ridiculous how good this thing is with all the infusion paths. My favorite though is the blessed one. The only con that I can think of for this weapon is the rust or blood covering it. A clean model would have been nice, you know. You can get the LGS by farming the knights who wield it. Honorable mentions are the Dragon Slayer Great Axe for having that stupid weapon art, which I've seen someone one-shot Aldrich with it, and the Lothric Knight Straight Sword for being the Lothric Knight Straight Sword. I would have gotten killed by the community for not mentioning these two, and rightfully so. I would have seppuku'd myself if I didn't. Speaking of samurai and seppuku, let's talk about Sekiro. That was a smooth transition if I ever seen one. Sekiro only had one weapon, and that is the Kusabimaru. So we really can't call it broken. But Sekiro also had shinobi tools. So let's say hypothetically, for the sake of argument, that shinobi tools are the weapons of Sekiro. Which one is considered broken? The answer is obviously the firecrackers. These things can stun enemies and bosses for what seems like an eternity. And they can even interrupt some powerful attacks, like Ishin's One Mind attack and Inner Ishin's Black Mortal Blade attacks. It works pretty much against everything except apparitions, and you can get it pretty early on. Now we come to FromSoft's latest release, Elden Ring. Deciding what weapon is the most broken and overpowered in this game would be difficult, cause YouTubers will tell you that all weapons are overpowered and broken. It's Rivers of Blood. It's Rivers of Blood. I don't even know why I'm trying to extend this. It's Rivers of Blood. No, it's not. As of the time of making this video, FromSoft decided to hit Rivers of Blood, Bloodhound Step, and a lot of other things with the nerf hammer, and the buff hammer for other things. So yeah, this, I guess they knew I'm making a video about strong weapons, and decided to ruin it for me. But that's a good thing. Also, it's a bad thing cause I did go on a little tangent about the bleed weapons in Elden Ring. So, listen to it. Rivers of Blood didn't just break the game, it kinda broke the community. You've got people who only use it when ganking, and you've got people who hate people who use it, and you also got people who hate people who hate people who use it. And then you got okay, you got the idea. I'm on the camp of Rivers of Blood and other bleed weapons should be strong, but not that strong. Because let's be real, bleed was never that great in the series so far. So it's kinda refreshing to see it shine. But I don't want its shine to blind everyone from looking at other options. Some people claim that Rivers of Blood is balanced by the fact that it can only be obtained late into the game. But is it really? You only need to kill what, 4 or 5 bosses to get it? 4 of them are kinda easy. So yeah, hopefully it will be balanced when the DLC comes. The game is still new and there's a huge possibility that we'll get a DLC soon, or at least the announcement. So I'll skip on Elden Ring in this video because I don't want to talk about something only for it to change when the DLC comes. It already changed with the patch. So yeah, if anything changed, I'll make an updated version of this video. At the end of the day, I just want to say that whatever you believe the best weapon is, I think we could all agree that all weapons are garbage and doo-doo trash, because the best weapon is the Pontiff Knight Coup.
Love and death. Sexy boy.